Welcome back, guys, to another video. We've just had a fantastic weekend of fixtures. We're now looking ahead to the midweek fixtures on the 14th, Tuesday of March, and also Wednesday, the 15th of March. Lots of games, lots of big matches as well, and lots of results. So let's get in and predict our week's results and see what the table looks like at the end. So first up, we have Blackpool versus QPR. Blackpool, very much a struggling side at the moment, losing 2-0 to Bristol City over the weekend and drawing with Burnley, which is probably their most credible result as of to date. Previously losing to Reading 3-1, Blackburn 1-0, and then they did beat Stoke a couple of weeks ago on the 18th of February. And on the other hand, you got QPR, who have just come back off that massive win against Watford. And since previous to that, they've been woeful, really. Losing 3-1 to Rotherham, 3-1 to Blackburn, 3-1 to Middlesbrough, 3-0 to Sunderland, and then of course Millwall losing 2-1 as well at home. So their run has been terrible. But having said that, this massive win on Saturday against Watford, I hope that it will give them that bit of spur, because I am going to go for a win for QPR. I'm only going to go a 1-0 win because the fact that with the way that everything's playing out at the bottom of the table, QPR fighting, Blackpool are also fighting to get out. It will be a tough game. I don't think there's going to be many goals in it, but after QPR's huge victory on Saturday against Watford, I definitely think that they're both going to go into it. It's been a close game. I'm going to go a 1-0 QPR though. So we're going to stick that in at 1-0. We then have Millwall versus Swansea kicking off at 7:45. I am going with a home win. Millwall on form at the moment. They are obviously pushing to remain in the playoffs. Their previous games, obviously they have beaten Reading earlier on. They also lost to Norwich, drew with Luton, and then beat Stoke, etc. Whereas Swansea, on the other hand, lost to Middlesbrough 3-1, lost to Luton. They drew with Rotherham, and they lost to Stoke, and then also lost to Blackburn as well. So their form hasn't been the best lately. So I am going with a 2-0 home win for that one. Next up, we have Rotherham at home to Preston. I can see with the fact that Rotherham lost 2-0 weekend. They beat QPR 3-1, drew with Swansea 1-1. They beat Sunderland as well previously to that and lost to Coventry. Preston, a little bit better form. They've won 2-0 against Cardiff. They drew 0-0 to Watford, drew to Coventry, beat Wigan, drew with Hull, and drew with ourselves, Luton. So on a little bit better form. I think Preston's still trying to fight. They've got a potential of going into playoffs if they can push for it. Rotherham, again, I think fighting their lives, trying to stay from going down. It's going to be a tough game. I'm going to call a 2-2 draw. Moving on to Watford. Now, Watford amazingly, obviously, lost their first game with Chris Wilder in charge, but I can't see them losing again. I believe the bounce back from the defeat against QPR is going to mean that they will win the next game. So, do they come back fighting? I'm going to go with a 2-1. Maybe potentially Birmingham come out, take the lead, and then Watford do the lead. Hate to say it, but I believe Watford will win that game against Birmingham, purely from a bounce back of a Chris Wilder perspective. Okay, next up we have Wigan at home, who are bottom of the league, to promotion candidates Coventry City. Is it a one-way street here, or is Wigan still fighting and got a chance? Wigan losing 3-0 to Burnley away from home, losing to West Brom, draw with Birmingham, lost to Preston, drew with Norwich, and then drew with Bristol City as well. Whereas Coventry drew with Hull. They've beaten Huddersfield 4-0 convincingly. They drew with Preston, beat Sunderland at home. They beat Rotherham away from home, beat Millwall at home, some convincing, and they also drew with Luton previously. Looked very good. Their number 17 up front is doing wonders for them. And as I said when we played them, be surprised if they keep them at the end of the season. If they can keep him fit, I strongly believe that Coventry are a team to be not to be messed with. So I'm going to go. The way they beat Huddersfield is making me more think of more goals, but I can't see Wigan scoring. So there's a 0 there straight away. Coventry, 3-0. I'm going to go 3-0. I'm going to go convincing 3-0 win for Coventry on that one. Now, for the team that everyone has been talking about recently, Middlesbrough, the in-form championship team right now. Michael Carrick is doing wonders for them there, and be very surprised if they don't either finish second or are very close to it. If Luton can beat them at Luton in a few weeks in April, I think that will decide who gets second place if Luton continue the way they are as well. But I just can't. The problem is, though, with Middlesbrough, it's like you look at the results. They've beaten Swansea 3-1. They smashed Reading 5-0. They did lose to West Brom 2-0, though. But they beat QPR 3-1. Beaten Sheffield United 3-1, which was a good win there. And they've beaten Cardiff on the road as well. Whereas Stoke have all of a sudden, since losing to Brighton, they've gone on a little bit of a run where they've smashed Sunderland 5-1. He's gone back to his old club, and they were all talking. I watched all the Sunderland fans and all their vlogs, like, oh, he's coming back to the club, we're going to give him so much booze, going to get ready, turn out, and they just get absolutely pumped 5-1. And then they beat Blackburn as well 3-2. So I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. Stoke, I can see it. I can't see Middlesbrough losing, but I can't see it being a walk in the park. So there's goals in it. There's goals. I'm going to give it a 2-1. Middlesbrough can't lose. I reckon it's going to be a 1-1, and Middlesbrough are going to score quite late on. I eat my words. Let's see, but I think that's the result. Next up, we move into a team that doesn't draw. They either seem to win or lose. And that's how it's played throughout the season. They've drawn 4 all year. They've obviously, as I said previously, they've just lost to Stoke 3-2 on the Friday night. They beat Sheffield United, which was a huge win. Another 3 points drop for Sheffield United. They beat Leicester in the FA Cup to go through to then play Sheffield United in the next round of the FA Cup. They beat QPR. They're beating Blackpool. They're beating Swansea. So there's a lot of results in there that are very convincing results. Whereas Reading, on the other hand, losing to Millwall at the weekend 1-0, losing to Sheffield United, being pumped 5-0 by Middlesbrough. They did then beat Blackpool, and they lost to Cardiff. So I think Blackburn are still, they're well in they're well in it now. 3 points from dropping out. They don't want to drop out. I think Blackburn are going to win 1-0. But I think, it's going to be a 1-0. So next up, we have Cardiff at home to West Brom. Cardiff recently losing to Preston 2-0. They beat Bristol City 2-0. They've lost to Norwich 2-0. They've then beaten Reading 1-0 and beaten Birmingham. Whereas on the other hand, West Brom beating Huddersfield 1-0. Beating Wigan 1-0. Losing 2-0 to Hull. Beating Middlesbrough. That was a huge result. As I spoke about earlier. And losing to Watford. So I think both teams sort of middle of the park. West Brom fighting for that promotion spot. Whereas Cardiff struggling and need to get out of the relegation battle. I can't see West Brom not taking some points here though. I'm gonna go with a 2-2. Here. Cardiff are gonna push to try and get a result here. They maybe go 1-0 up, and West Brom are gonna come back, take the lead 2-1, and maybe Cardiff come back for the 2-2. Next up, we have Huddersfield at home to Norwich. Huddersfield struggling massively down the bottom. They've still mathematically got a chance of getting out of the relegation zone, but results haven't really gone their way recently. Losing 1-0 to West Brom, drawing to Bristol City, losing 4-0 to Coventry, losing 4-0 to Burnley. It did luckily beat Birmingham 2-1 on the 18th of Feb, losing again to 3-0 to Stoke, and even losing to Wigan, who, if you're going to beat someone who's down there and struggling, you've got to you've got to try and beat the teams around you to try and get up there. If anything, they take on Norwich, who have lost to Sunderland yesterday, which was a huge result for Sunderland. But they have beaten Millwall, they've beaten Cardiff, they've beaten Birmingham, they've drew to Wigan, they've beaten Hull, and then they finally lost to Bristol City earlier on in the 11th of February. I just genuinely think Norwich are, they demand a lot more. When Luton went to Norwich, their fans were very heavily critical of their players when they lost to us. When they even come to Luton, it was very much the same when they lost to us again. So I can only see one way this way, and I think it's going to be a bounce back from the Sunderland loss. So I'm going to say a 3-0 Norwich win here because of the loss they had against Sunderland on Sunday, and Huddersfield struggling down the bottom. Okay, next up we have the team that is just smashing it. 80 points. Burnley go to Hull City. Hull City previously, they've drew to 1-1 to Coventry, which is a pretty good result. They beaten West Brom 2-0. They lost 1-0 to Bristol City. Drew to Preston, lost to Norwich, and drew with Stoke. Whereas Burnley just can't stop winning, really. They beat Wigan 3-0. They did draw to Blackpool, but then they beaten Fleetwood in the FA Cup. They've won 4-0 to Huddersfield. They had that good draw against Millwall and then beat us 1-0. I think when they come to us, as I said, they play that very out from the back, just like the Man City style, where they use their keeper a lot, passing around and try and break them down. Hull sitting mid-table. I think Burnley are just going to step on and just keep winning and just take the league and the points by surprise. There's 30 points still to play for, and they're just going to run away with it. I can see them at least hitting 95 minimum. I think Hull will make it difficult for them, so I'm going to go a 1 for Hull. But Burnley 3. A 3-1 for Burnley. Now for the big one, the only one that I actually care about. Luton Town are at home to Bristol City. Luton have been on fantastic form as of late. Their best away record they've got in the league. Not so good at home, which is the slightly more worrying part when you come up against these teams that we're now having to play at home. However, we do play Bristol City. So Luton, obviously, as we know, won 1-0 against Sheffield United. Amazing victory on Saturday. We did then beat Swansea again at home. We drew 2-2 to Millwall. We did beat Birmingham on the road again. And when Burnley come to us, obviously, as I've just said, they've scraped the 1-0 win. We drew to Preston previously to that. But I want to say we win. But Bristol City have been picking up these points that, are making them a team to fear still. Like beating Blackpool 2-0. They drew to Huddersfield. They did lose to Cardiff away. They then they beat Hull at home previously to that and drew to Sunderland. So it's going to be a tough game. We've got Harry Cornick coming back to play against us. I believe he's currently out, but Naismith is also over there, next Luton player as well. Interested to see. I want to try, when I do my vlog on Wednesday, I want to try and speak to a couple of Bristol City fans and get their opinion. Because a lot of people say they hate Harry Cornick and don't know why they got him and what he actually brings to the table. So it'd be interesting to see. But I'm gonna go with a 2-1 Luton. I'm gonna go with a 2-1. It's gonna be difficult. I remember a couple of games against Bristol City. We did beat them 3-0 previously to that at our place, but I'm going to say a 2-1. It's going to be a tough one, but I think there's a couple of goals in it for us and 1 to Bristol, so I think that's how, I think that's 2-1. And finally, the one that everyone down below in the playoffs are wanting to talk about, certainly Middlesbrough and Luton. Sunderland are playing Sheffield United, and Sunderland at home here, they've had a huge result against Norwich, winning 1-0. Off the back of that stuffing for Stoke. And Sheffield United are not in the best of form at the moment. They're picking up some points, but they're also losing to the teams they shouldn't really be losing to remain where they are. I can genuinely see Middlesbrough taking second, and if Luton continue on the way they are, if we beat Middlesbrough, we potentially taking that spot. There's, like I say, there's 30 points still to play for. It's going to be week 37. I really hope that, for a Luton's perspective, that Sunderland go off that bounce. They go all out against Sheffield United and beat them at home and use all their energy, because Luton have got to play Sunderland at Sunderland on Saturday. So, if anything, Sunderland, for me, for Luton, for Middlesbrough, please beat Sheffield United and allow that gap just to come even closer, to give us a little bit more of a glimpse, and also to just wear yourself out, so on Saturday we can come and Luton could beat Sunderland. Because the results, to be fair to Sunderland, they beaten Norwich, they got pumped 5-1 against Stoke at home, they lost on the road to Coventry, they lost to Rotherham, they drew 1-1 to Bristol City, but they did beat QPR previously in the 14th of Feb, so they've not had the best of form recently. And I know I've got a Sunderland fan claiming their fans are quite fickle at the moment. They're going hot and cold, hot and cold. A lot of fans, when they lost 5-1 to Stoke, saying, "Oh, does anyone want my Luton ticket?" Blah 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 blah, etc. And that was coming from my Sunderland fan friend. Sorry, but I think after that 1-0 win against Norwich, they're going to come back to the ground on Wednesday, and they're going to actually be fired up for it. Beat Sheffield United, and they're going to take the spot and allow us and Middlesbrough to get even closer. Because Sheffield United, as I say, they lost to us. They did beat Reading, but they lost to Blackburn. They beat Tottenham in the FA Cup, to be fair to them. So they are going to be playing Blackburn in the next round of the FA Cup. They did beat Watford, but they then lost again to Millwall. So another team up in there trying to fight for the promotion spot. I'm going to go with a 2-1 again. I'm going to go with 2-1. I think Sheffield United start strong, coming back from that rebound of Luton. They go 1-0 up. But I just think Sunderland will just take it. I hope. This is me hoping rather than knowing what's going to happen. It's either going to be, 2-1, or it's going to be a 1-1. Do I stick with a 1-1? I'm going to go with a 1-1 purely because my heart wants Sunderland to win, but my head is saying Sheffield United are going to bounce back. They're going to win, but I'm giving Sunderland some credit from that win on Sunday. So I'm going to go with a 1-1. So after all of that, week 37 does look like this. Burnley do sour ahead straight to 83 points. Now the gap has now started to look a little bit nicer. 2 points Middlesbrough off Sheffield United now. Luton are getting so close. It's almost now getting to that, can we do it? Especially with Middlesbrough still to play. If we can beat Middlesbrough in April, take us almost level points if you just get rid of all the rest of it. We've got Sunderland then to play on Saturday, so it's going to be huge. The top 6 doesn't really change. The top 6 doesn't change at all. Millwall do increase itself to 60 points. Blackburn, 61. Norwich remain on 58. Even with their win. Coventry moved to 56 points. West Brom 9th in the table. Watford up to 10th, 54. Sunderland, 53. 12th is Preston with 51. Bristol City remain on 13th with 48. Stoke City, 46 points on 14th. Hull, QPR, Reading, Swansea, Birmingham, Rotherham, Cardiff, and not much change at the bottom there. I haven't really given much credit down the bottom there, but I just can't see it being any other way. Now that is my results for the week of the 37th. Hopefully you did like the video and some of the honest results coming through and a little bit of the background from the last few results. This is my first ever time doing this type of video. Please let us know in the comments if you did like the video, what you guys think, if you are any of the teams in the Championship, how you think the weekend is going to go, or the week is going to go, and where you think your team will end up in the rest of the season. And I'll look forward to reading the comments and replying. Have a good one, guys.